Trollord Games. Join the fray.
Did you hear me? All right, we are live. Did you mute that channel, Davis?
Yeah, I can hear that.
All right, sweet. How's it going, Sparky? All right, everybody, let us know if we're getting feedback. Davis has joined us from the high mountains. Hey, you did it a little better. You got it. Oh, you did it perfect. It's absolutely perfect. You see it?
What?
Gods and Legends is right above your head, and Castles and Crusades is right above that. It's absolutely spot on perfect. It probably needs to go to the left just a little bit.
But I can't. It looks reversed to me. Is it reversed?
Davis's mouth is covered. No, it looks good on my end. How do I get rid of that little thing? What do I gotta do? Click into it? Oh, what the hell? Remove from cost. No, it's showing your name. You're gonna have to sit up straight, David. David, sit up straight. Can you hear me? I don't think you can hear me anymore.
I can hear you. Oh wait.
Yeah. For some reason, Skype has your Davis Chenault new right beneath your when you squat when you.
Wait, I'm getting pretty feedback. Do I need to turn something off?
Probably. Davis's volume is a little low and he's getting feedback. Yeah, you need to silence the Twitch stream for sure.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
If you go to on Twitch,
I can hear you.
you getting an echo?
I'm getting 3. So I'm just supposed to be in Skype, right?
Yeah. If you go to Twitch and mute the Twitch,
Turn Twitch off.
you can do that or Twitch or just mute the channel. Underneath the image, underneath the video, you want to see a little mute button. You know, the little speaker thing. Just mute that.
I closed it and I forgot my password.
Are you still getting feedback?
No.
Okay, well then we're good. If someone asks something in the stream, I'll mention it to you.
Okay. I'll try to get it back up again and then mute it. I don't really know what I'm doing. Anyway, all right, go ahead with your thing.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're live on Twitch, and we're here to talk about the release of Gods and Legends, which you can see right above Davis's head here. So everyone, can you hear Davis and myself well? Just let us know in the chat there if we need to fix anything or figure something out. But Davis, you're gonna have to sit up straight because if you slouch, the little
Wait,
no, you're good right there.
I'm straight.
Yeah, you're perfect. Yeah. I don't know how to get rid of this little thing in Skype here. It is what it is. There you go. Yes, technology grief. Yeah. How's it going, Matt? How's it going, K George? How are you all doing tonight? Hey, Omo, glad you could join us. So a lot of people have already received their Gods and Legends at this point. We're still kind of rolling some of them out, those that came in over the weekend. But a good 2/3 of the backers from the Kickstarter many years ago should have it. Just swing on by, Sparky. I think this calls for a Dr. Pepper. I couldn't, but then I realized I had my speakers muted, so there's that. And well, there you go, Blood Wild. That would do it. And I gotta say,
13 days.
do what?
I haven't had any sugar in 13 days.
Have you not? Holy shit, that's really good. Your pancreas is probably loving it.
No sugar at all. Not even a piece of fruit. I'm gonna get scurvy.
Yeah, you have to have some sugar. It's not good for you.
Man. I need to find a banana. Is that correct?
Kim, on the leather one, I have a list of people set next to the shipping computer, and there's only like 3 of you left who haven't gotten the leather, and you're one of them. If you'll send your order in, we have your name listed down. As soon as your order comes in, we're going to put the leather one in the box with the regular one, so you'll get the leather and the regular, even though you've only ordered the regular, if that makes sense. And you have your discount code that gets you covered and all of that stuff. So yeah, just send your order in. Order the standard book, and we will make sure the leather one goes out with it. That's the most logical way we could figure out to do that without encouraging people to order the leathers because there's not very many of those. So just to catch Davis up, because I know you have certainly forgotten, and everybody else. So.
He says I forgot. Ken had to remind me I wrote the book.
Yeah, I've been giving Davis so many writing assignments. He doesn't know what he's writing for. He's just writing material and sending it our way. So to give you, no, yeah, absolutely, Kim. Just order the regular one, and we'll get you covered real quick. No problem. It should go out tomorrow. There's a whole truckload of them going out tomorrow. So if you get it in tonight, we'll get it in the mail tomorrow. So essentially, this book was put on the docket a long time ago, a very, very long time ago. We wanted to kind of redo what?
2 years ago?
Oh, it was longer. That was about five and a half, 6 years ago. It was a long time ago. And
That's par for the course.
yeah, sounds about right. But we had Gods and Monsters in print, and we didn't really worry about it too much. This Gods and Legends was something we wanted to do, but we hadn't quite got around to doing it. And I remember the way it played out in that Kickstarter in the last 48 hours, we ran out of stretch goals. This was for the Player's Handbook 7th printing. We ran out of stretch goals, and people just started kind of throwing ideas out there, and I mentioned this, and everybody jumped on it, but I kept posting. I said, we haven't even written this. This isn't even in the kind of the design phase. But no one cared. They all loved the idea, so we put it in the Kickstarter, did well, all of that business. 4 years later, we finally, the Kickstarter's fulfilled. Everybody got everything except this one stretch reward, and I think it was 154 or 164 people that didn't get it. But they should have. Everybody should have it now. And Davis wrote this, I guess, about a year ago. We finally kind of put it together, and then had Zoe and Peter do some art, and finally got Gods and Legends out and in print. And here it is.
Wait, we put this in a Kickstarter?
Yeah, it was like the last minute stretch reward. You know how it gets at the very end of a Kickstarter, there's a bunch of people jumping in and everyone's wanting more, and we were all jazzed about it. 7th printing was doing really good. And I threw it in as the last stretch reward, and it made it. And then we put up a leather version as well, and we had a few orders on the leather version. That's what Kim George here is struggling with, trying to get her, make sure she gets her leather version that she paid for. Yeah, so it was, but again, it was just kind of conceived. We just kind of had this idea. We knew what we wanted to do, but we hadn't quite begun work on it. We had so many other projects that we've been working on, between now and then. So many other things to absolutely had to get done.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, no, there were. Oh, okay, I remember manuscript. These are one of the 3 rejected manuscripts.
Yeah, your first. Yeah. Okay, so you're right. Actually, it reminds me. We had one fellow we had sort of enlisted to write Gods and Legends, and he tinkered with it for a little bit, and then he dropped out, and then we hired another fellow, and he dropped out as well. And that's when I shouted at you, Dave, and said, look, we need to get this done, blah, blah, blah. And you wrote a good chunk of stuff, but it wasn't what we were looking for. So we kicked it back to you.
I wrote about 40,000 words.
Yeah.
And then you just write the short back. This isn't going to work.
So we, or me, kicked it back to you. And then you actually turned over more than is actually in the book Gods and Legends, because there's a whole bunch because you just went hog wild with the mythos, which is really cool. But we couldn't get, some of it didn't fit, some of it wasn't tied together completely, so I set that aside, and that's all in another file. And it's I don't know how many, I want to say 60, I don't know why that number's in my head, but it's 60 human deities. And those were all pulled out and set to the side. Because it's...
Okay, okay, right.
Yeah.
I forgot about the book altogether, and then I forgot about those deities that I'd written.
Yeah, and they're not...
Oh, yeah.
I think what you did, because I didn't read all of them, but I think you tied them to, tribes or nations or whatever, because there's not really one overarching pantheon. if that makes sense. Yeah, Willie, exactly. We still have the 40,000 words. Great Pape says, hello, David. Yeah, we still have the 40,000 words, but we'll work work with that later. And the nice thing about that, a lot of that stuff will actually go into other projects. What did you write? You wrote...
For the past year, I've gone, because this goes to the NPC Almanac as well.
Yeah.
I've started to go overboard in the past 2 years. Doubling the size of almost everything that I submit.
Yes.
Because Steve will send me a sample and say, I need 12,000 words. And next thing you know, it's 24,000 words.
that has...
It has absolutely nothing to do with what he asked.
That's where we've been for a little bit. The NPC Almanac has to be the funniest because you flat doubled that book. That book was going to be about... I booked it at about 160 pages, something like that. That's what we figured. That's what we budgeted for, and its final print, I was looking at it last Friday, it's going to be 368 pages, I think. It is absolutely monstrous.
Yeah, the guys who got in my Kickstarter got a killer deal.
They got even a better deal. They're going to find out tomorrow because it's supposed to be a soft cover in the Kickstarter, but we're bumping it up to a hardcover, so with no cost. So
yeah, no, I think the hardcover is a really good call on that. Gods and Legends is hardcover too, right?
Yes, Gods and Legends is hardcover. And Fantasy Grounds just asked a great question. Is the content going to be ported over to Fantasy Grounds someday before 2022? So that we are on the cusp. Chuck and I had a nice meeting about this on Thursday. We are on the cusp of re-releasing a whole new version of the Player's Handbook, or updated, or whatever it is, and launching more adventure modules over on Fantasy Grounds. And once those are live, we'll have a really good handle on what to do and how to release content like this. This type of content doesn't have a lot of mechanics to it, so I think that it'll be relatively easy to get it over there. And Fantasy Grounds and Shard and a couple of the other online platforms are things we are looking at, but Fantasy Grounds is right there at the top of that. And we are anxious to get that stuff out, and we're hoping to start including Fantasy Grounds into most of our Kickstarters as well, now that we've kind of got that stuff brought up into the modern world. TLG's technology is always about 5 years behind where everybody else is. So.
Yeah, I still have dial-up here.
Yeah, yes you do. But you got fiber optics coming soon. Yeah, Fantasy Grounds, we really... Do what?
They've got the tube that the fiber optic cable goes in.
Hey man, that's closer than they were a month ago. So...
Yeah. They've come by like 5 times to look at it, but they haven't done anything since. But anyway, but I'm sure it'll get done before I die.
They're plotting. They're probably just, it's troll time, man. Everybody is moving at troll time. The entire world discovered during COVID that there's a thing called troll time, and it took us 4 years to get Gods and Legends done. It's just troll time. It's just the way it is. We should coin that. Yeah, Fantasy Grounds, we would absolutely love. It's one of those things that we just haven't put all of the blood, sweat, and tears into that we need to from a company level. We had lots of volunteers working over there, did a great job, but the company never really got involved until Tim and Chuck kind of drove us hard in these past 18 months or so. And that I'm really hoping in the next couple of months that turns around something immensely. Fantasy Grounds Academy is, blah, 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 trying to read this comment, is committed to working with you and Chuck on the presentation and running it. That's fantastic. That's what Chuck and I were talking about just on Thursday, to get with you guys and line all this stuff up so we can make all of this stuff happen. Just to let everybody who's joining us know, we're doing a raffle today for a free copy of Gods and Legends print and PDF. So when they call for the raffle, which I think they just did, be sure to enter in your raffle. I think it's raffle it's exclamation mark raffle, to have a chance to scoop this book. I totally forgot to do that. I was on Twitch. Anyway, there you go. Now I can't remember. It's moving too fast. I can't read the question. How the original link came to order. Now I can't remember how I'm not sure. Tim did that through the Kickstarter, so he should have had a message at some point somehow. I don't know how Tim does that. That's all kind of magic. All right, wait a minute. I've messed up over here on Davis's head. There we go. All right, I got Davis piped in through Skype. All right, so I'm going to just do a quick skinny. So those who may not know what is in Gods and Legends will know what the Sam Hill we're talking about. So Gods and Legends is a book we have just released. We shipped it to the Kickstarter backers a couple of weeks back. They should be getting it, and if you have not, please give us a shout. But Gods and Legends has really 3 parts to the book. The first portion, it's really bringing CKs and characters and gods all together in a more playable format. So the first section of Gods and Legends, Davis tore into the relationship between characters and gods in the CK and gods and the campaign world, trying to bring it kind of into a playable, as opposed to, gods are untouchable or gods are just another NPC, but to keep the mystique of a god, but also make it playable simultaneously. Exploring Jim Ward's original idea of avatars, but actually using those in a different fashion for whatever level you're playing. How paladins, druids, clerics, and other divine classes interact with gods. How to actually run the gods at the table. How to not have them in combat, but also have them be that threatening thing without overpowering. So the first section really explores how to role play the divine powers at your table, which I think is a really good, helpful tool that you don't see almost anywhere in publication these days. The second portion, Davis created a host of Pantheons. I restricted him to 4 or 5 gods per Pantheon. He turned over more than that for many of them, but space-wise, I cut some of them out. So there's some gods kind of drifting around that didn't make it into the cut. But he covered all kinds of stuff. Your typical dwarf, elf, halfling. What else has he got there? He did all of the main races, but he also did... I'll just read it down. Bugbear, Gnoll, Goblin, Orcs, Hobgoblin, Lizardmen, Kobold, Giants, Ogre, Troll, Dragons, Fae, Centaur, Merman, and Sahagin. And then, of course, we've got the only human gods we have in there. We plucked from the world of Erd and did the Erd deities in there. And later we will explore the human deities that he created, which is a good chunk of that 40,000 words that we set aside. And then the final part, the third part of Gods and Legends, has all of the gods that you have seen published in Codex Celtarum, Codex Slavorum, Codex Germania, Codex Classicum, Codex Egyptium, and there's another, Codex Nordica, that we have previously released, and these are all mythological books that cover those mythologies written by Brian Young, and we pulled the stat blocks from those gods and put them in here. So there's a ton of human deities in here based on mythologies, without much write-up. The write-up, you need to go to check out the Mythos series, which Tim or Chuck can drop a link here. But Gods and Legends is essentially kind of an intro on how to run gods, and it has just tons of gods for your monsters and your demi-humans piled in there, and for your humans, a bunch of mythological stuff at the end of it. And the art in this book is through the roof. Peter Bradley did some fantastic pieces, but Zoe dove in and did some excellent stuff, and we got some Jason Walton in there as well. It's just some really good art in there. The lack of deities, gods, and heroes gives TBJZ. I'm not sure what TBJZ means. Do you know what that means? I'm not up on my internet. Content more usefulness. Yeah, it's one of the things that really... it gets kind of glossed over, which is odd because there's so much divine magic, clerics and stuff, whatnot. But the gods get glossed over a lot in RPGs, and I don't think they should. I really don't think they should. Gods in Davis's world of Enzea play an enormous role. You still with us, Davis?
You what?
Are you still with us?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't...
In addition to being freaking exhausted, but go ahead. I was listening in the background. Going over the book. Blah, blah, blah.
No. So what I was actually saying is that the gods play a huge role in characters' lives, or can, and your world in Enzea is absolutely the perfect example of that.
Yes. You know how I got excited about the show American Gods the other day?
Yes.
Okay, so American Gods, if you watch the show or read Gaiman's book or whatever, it's on Stars. You can rent it on Amazon through Stars, whatever. That's the way I sort of perceive gods, right? They walk among us, they talk among us, they live among us, and they do things among us, and they can do things for us or against us, but 99.9% of the time really don't care about us.
Yeah.
We're just things that happen to depend on.
Well, I can tell you from experience playing in your world of Isaiah that they play a real role. I remember Sarah's character and her transgressions. What happened with her? What happened to her cleric?
Oh yes. There's a ring of stones, and she had been given a certain elevation in prowess, but was no longer allowed inside the ring of stones, so she had succeeded in the next stage of her spiritual development. And I wonder 3 times. There are 3 clear warnings. The law states you cannot enter the ring of stones. You can't do it anymore. You're not allowed. It's forbidden. And the punishment, when she did do it, was to have her fingers cut off, her lips cut off, her nose cut off, her ears cut off, and her eyes gouged out. Which happened, but it didn't kill her.
So for those of you who don't know, the world of Isaiah is Davis's fantasy world that you can actually find in a whole series of books that he's already done and released through Trollwood Games. But it is a grim, hard world. I've never made it past 3rd level in Isaiah. I've lost God knows how many characters. Part of that's my playing style, so you can't dump all of that on Davis. Part of that's just where I play.
Yeah, that's a lot on you.
Yeah, I do get myself killed a lot. But so Davis is, and that's why Davis is the perfect author for this material, because he makes the gods real in his own game, so that they become real in your game, and that really if you lose them, you lose so much badass stuff that both characters can do and play against background material, role playing material, and then of course avenues for the CK GMDM to pump new ideas, new concepts, new magic items, whatever to guide the party, whatever the hell. So losing gods is just a horrible idea in an RPG, in my opinion. Pawn Dream, yes, it is very stacked. It's chock full of material, absolutely chock full of it. What is this?
King Kothar makes a good point there too about if the gods are real in a setting and are determined to be creators, omnipotent, or nearly so, they should have such an immense influence in the world, and they should. If a god involves himself in the world, people would know it. And in the fantasy setting, it's always expected that there are gods. In most fantasy settings I've ever been in. That there are gods and that they're real. Gandalf was a god.
Yeah, essentially.
Sort of. Yeah, Sauron was a god. And these guys had immense impact in the world. I guess Radagast was a god who was worthless.
Yeah, he would have been the same order of Maiar, I think is what it was that Gandalf was.
Yeah, the Maiar. And they're one of the first, so they're gods.
Yeah, and they're the same thing.
But yeah, they would have an immense impact in the world. An immense.
Yeah, no, they would.
And people would worship them.
Of course, now, but now that goes.
An actual god, it's actual Odin, walked across the street. Actual Odin.
But now.
And said, it's time for you to sacrifice a cow to me. I'll be like, I'm going to be looking for a cow.
Only if I get to eat it. But now, on the reverse of that is true too. The gods may not want anything to do with it. They may not care. They may have created and go. You know, it can. I think to give the gods personality is actually insanely important, because then you can go in any direction you want with these deities. And you can take the Eridian deities. Korthane has nothing to do with the world. He watches over it. He gets involved once in a while, but has nothing to do with it. Unglar has everything to do with it. And Narhite just gets in there and he literally just fucks around. He just makes problems for people because he thinks it's humorous. So you get this, there's a wide variety of, I mean, if the beings are omnipotent. They can do whatever they may not be interested. I'm not that interested in, I don't know, dust bunnies rolling across my floor. I caused them, but I'm not that interested in them.
No, God generally wouldn't be interested in them. And the gods in Isaiah aren't that involved. They're withdrawn from the world.
Right. But
there are a few that involve them.
In Isaiah, transgressions can get you killed. You can get the wrath of the God very, very quickly. Let's see, Fantasy Ground says, it's odd that they have been...
Most of mine just don't care. They've given up.
They're tired. I just want to sleep. Making this world of stuff. It's odd that Fantasy Grounds Academy says it's odd that they have been abandoned in newer settings. I think the fear is the woke culture among that might complain or not want the gods type books as much. Such a shame. I'm not sure if it's woke or not. I don't know if that played into it. I really haven't given it that much thought. I've just noticed that two kind of currents with deities, and I'm just for those who don't know, Davis and I started playing in 1976, so we kind of lived through all of it. And there's two kind of major things generally, and this is a gross generalization. People either just don't pay any attention to the gods whatsoever. It's just divine magic. You pray, you move on, and no one gives a shit. And then the other one is people really become very involved, making the deities a huge part of it. And in that case, frequently the deities are almost unplayable. They're so powerful that they don't play any kind of role in the world directly. Which, if you're an omnipotent deity, there's no reason that you would only interact with a 14th level character and not a first level, right? I mean, you're omnipotent. You can see, hear, whatever, you know it all. So why wouldn't you become, some avatar becomes involved with this first level or some aspect of the deity? And that's what Davis wove into Gods and Legends. You'll find that kind of guidelines on how to do that. How to build all that stuff into your game, into your tabletop. But I see, good on you, TL Games, to include this content in today's social climate. Yeah, we're not. I'm not too worried about any of that. We do not want to offend people. Obviously, that's kind of a Southern philosophy. So we don't go out of our way.
Wait, what comment are you talking about?
Fantasy Grounds Academy said, good on Troller Games to include this content in today's social climate. He was kind of postulating that perhaps the way the social climate is today, that most companies have abandoned the approach to gods and just kind of leaving all of that out because it might upset people, get unwarranted attention or what have you from whatever, from whoever, because the internet's a very loud place, and everyone's a hoot and hollering. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much today's current climate has impacted deities. Because I remember back in the '80s when D&D was really on the run. He came out strong, and then I guess the young man got killed in Chicago, or he died, or he killed himself. I can't remember now. And there was a few suicides that they wanted to kind of attached to Dungeons & Dragons, but it wasn't really fair to do so. Some weird devil worshipping. I remember all of that gobbledygook. But even then, there was deities and demigods, but I don't really remember TSR pursuing much beyond that. A little bit in the Planescapes, I guess, but not too much beyond that. I think that gods, they're very difficult to play, and it's difficult to weave them into your game in kind of a logical fashion. If you ever get the opportunity to game with Davis, you'll see almost a perfect way to do that, because the world of Isaiah weaves their myths in with the story arcs. But not so much that the gods are guiding you, or you really just don't want to transgress. That's really the key to that.
But you do get bonuses too. Like there's the bridge thing, whatever. There are small bonuses that you get along the way if you just follow the rules and laws and traditions.
Right. And that stuff is.
And I think that's the way it should be, too. I mean, what's the thing about throwing salt over your shoulder to bring good luck?
Yeah, there's that. But you're right, they're the perfect way to do it, and I do this all the time. Like my son Wilson's.
But if that were real, there would be a lot of salty roads, and salt would be really valuable.
There's so much salt. It's in the ocean, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Surely there's a spell to desalinate ocean water somewhere.
It's got all the light.
But Wilson's learned very quickly to pray and call to the gods all the time because I'll give him a bonus on his attribute checks. You make a prayer, you get a +1. It's the perfect mechanic, and it's simple. And it's very, very easy. Let's see, Bloodwild says, it's been decades since we used generic clerics. We use specialty priests for each god. I think that's how 5th edition has gone, I think is where we are. David, someone is asking if you turn your volume up. I don't know if you have a volume on your mic, but now don't mess with your volume if it's gonna destroy anything.
I think that I've turned up all. Can anyone hear me at all?
Yeah, no, they can hear you. We just a couple of them are saying that you can, but you're good. You're good. I don't want you to mess with it because you were messing with that all weekend, and you'll turn it off, and then you'll be gone. So let's not do that.
And then I'll throw a temper fit, and the computer will be gone.
Yeah. So let's not do that. Fiber optics will be your way soon, and all will be right with the world. Let's see. Hot take.
I can't find either of those microphones that you gave me. As a result of a temper fit.
Okay, I was about to say, I know Henry had one for a little bit there. Let's see, King Kothar says, hot take, there are no gods in the Hyborian Age, only tribalistic folk religion, animism, and aliens who take advantage of these superstitious hairless apes. That's awesome. It's the Greys from the X-Files. They come back down. That's awesome. I see, Dark Knight says, that's how I usually run most of my games. Gods are so far removed from mortals. I kind of do both. I mean, I've got powerful and less, and sometimes I'll have, like, Narhite. Narhite started messing with the big game I'm running now at about 5th level. When they were 5th or 6th level. He started just messing with him because he's a greater god and he has nothing else to do. And he can do multiple things at the same time. But, of course, I tone it a little bit. But that's the thing. I mean, this is what Gods and Legends is kind of set to do, is just give guidelines on if you want to go this direction, go this direction. If you want to go this direction, go this direction. I'm really pleased with the editorial in the beginning. Let's see. Matt Beringer Ward has the worst internet. I can't hear audio. Only every 7th or 8th word. It's like watching late night 80s dubbed Japanese theater. I'm not sure we can help you there, Matt Beringer.
Dude, who was that guy it was in the 80s? It had to be in the 80s, maybe the 70s. Late night monster theater, where you just saw the robot head and the guy's head.
Mystery. That's the 80s. Mystery Science Theater. Yeah. Yeah. He watched all those crappy. There you go. All those wonderful movies from the 70s and 80s that perhaps aren't that wonderful. Perhaps. Never go back. Back in the 80s, I always viewed Deities and Demigods as Monster Manual 3. And the cool thing about Deities and Demigods, I thought, just kill them all. You know, Palm Dream, Dave's and I were talking the other day about just the Monty Hall side of the game, because this guy started playing with Rodney back in 84, 85. And he showed up at the table. Now, I had just come from Davis's table, but he showed up at the table with 4 pages of magic items. And I was like, what the hell? That's insane. But he probably could have taken some of the gods and deities and demigods. And Dave said, I don't ever remember getting magic items from you. I'm sure I did, but I don't remember it.
It's just that generally the list of items you owned was in like a quarter of a page.
Yeah, if that. Let's see. Fantasy Grounds, having the gods in your game world is good for role playing and giving divine classes more validity. It does, and it gives context to so many things. The deities always play a huge role in my games, always. Even from the beginning levels, Davis is a perfect example. In the game I'm running now, he started a cleric, and he began Braylic with his mouth sewn shut as a sacrifice to the gods so that he could gain more powers. And the gods took notice. So any of that kind of stuff, you're right, it validates the divine classes, gives them a little bit more, oomph to it. It's awesome to have superstition.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Sparky brings up an interesting thing there down in playing a Joan of Arc type character, deity taking her, guiding her, blah blah blah. So, like with Braylic, I think it's one of the funnest clerics I've ever played, because I've played it full tilt. That
you did.
He called himself the Mouth of the Gods.
Yeah.
That he did not have a personality. He did not have a goal. He did not have a dream. He was nothing but a vessel through which the gods acted. So every one of his pronouncements and reasons for doing things all had something to do with a deistic desire. Whether real or not, because Kent never really told me anything, but he would describe them. So like Steve would like describe this event. There are two crows. No, I remember this one in particular. This one in particular because it pissed Chris off. There's a horse, a white horse, wandering across the field. And I immediately interpreted it as a vision from the god.
I remember that.
To head north into the lands of war. And Kurt just threw up his hands and was like, why do you have to interpret everything? Look at this league. Oh my God.
You did, I remember, because you...
Anyway, it's an interesting approach.
No, it's a great approach, and you played it to the hill. And the nice thing is, Chris and Todd really didn't buy into your role playing. I mean, they loved your role playing, but into your character. Their characters didn't believe that Brelic was the mouth of the god. They just didn't, and they role played that. They humored your character. But now Mac, he played his characters as if you were an avatar of the god Amanut come to speak directly to him. So Mac actually took your role playing and built his character. Used that to help build his character. And that is a perfect example of the way that gods can mold and shape the game that you're playing, and why you shouldn't abandon them as players or as CKs or DMs or GMs or whatever the hell you're doing.
The clerics are really, and I know that the reason I wouldn't cast heal spells for so long in that game, I never healed the party.
I know, they were always mad.
Led to a lot of irritation.
Yeah.
Because they had to be deserving of the healing before they got it. And being wounded wasn't deserving of the healing. So who are the ones who got healed the least would be Chris and Todd, who were the least believing in what I was saying. And the one that I always backed up was Mac, because he believed what I was saying. Hence, it actually feeds into Mac's success. If he believed in me, I helped him succeed.
And now he's a 15th level avatar of Heth.
Where was I going? I went off reservation.
Well, we actually were talking about Sparky's comment that he's wanting one of his characters to play a Joan of Arc type character.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really great idea. But the player has to run with the idea as much.
Right.
As the CK, because you still want it to be a game that she controls, or he controls,
and this is where the CK gets kind of
not constantly feeding information. So this is my suggestion on that. This is my suggestion as a castle keeper, and this god inspires this Joan of Arc character. I think, hey, in the ATB, don't we have a character like that, a class?
Yeah, there's the Oathsworn.
Yeah, the Oathsworn.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But they're guided by a deity. The thing is, what would be really, really fascinating, because this is where you bring the individuality into it. The divinity gives the direction, but not like, because you know how fortunes are, they're never like clear.
Right.
So divinity gives a direction that's not clear. The player gets to make the decision of where that takes them. You know, leave a little interpretive, license.
Yeah, that's actually the perfect way of putting that. To make that more playable, Sparky, and this is sort of what I did when I was running Davis's Brayling. When Davis saw the horse going north or whatever, and he saw that as a sign from the gods, and he started spouting that, I didn't correct him. The gods didn't feel like we got to correct him one way or the other. It doesn't matter. So you loosen the reins and let the players, and the more you let the players get into that, they get to kind of make up a god's thought process. Then they're going to get more and more into it. So long as they don't go, stupid crazy with it. And when they go stupid crazy, you rein it in. But by and large, if you loosen the reins, then their imaginative play is going to kick in.
Yeah, I'm 99% certain that description of a horse was background
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's all I was. Oh yeah. Probably about half of your pronouncements that this is the gods were more than half had nothing to do with the gods whatsoever. But they don't give a shit. But as a god, the gods are sitting there going, "Hey, he's firing up this other guy. It's good. It's all good." So King Kothar tells us that Mystery Science Theater is 3,000 and it's still running on Netflix. So you can still watch it there, Davis. And Bloodwild is suggesting we do our own. You and I can do a Mystery Science Theater. I'm not sure if that's a good idea, but let's see. And we mentioned here, and King Kothar has the fellow who took his own life was James Dallas Egbert III. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it was a whole scare thing in the early '80s. It was, I don't know, it was interesting. Davis and I kind of missed most of the scare from those days. I know we got those pamphlets in the mail. I'm still not certain how we got them. I remember, I don't remember calling it the Satanic Panic, but we didn't take it too seriously. That I do remember. It was, our parents didn't give a shit. I don't remember Mom and Dad ever saying a word about us playing D&D. Not a single word. I remember Dad played with us once. He killed.
But that's about it.
Yeah, I think that they got your address because they came to you. I think they got your address from Mile High Comics because you ordered.
Because I ordered a lot from Mile High Comics.
Right. It's either that or you did that.
That would be the other one.
You played that play-by-mail, that Hyborian Age play-by-mail.
Yeah.
So I guess. Otherwise, I don't know how they got your. I don't remember you ordering from.
I don't know.
Who the fuck knows?
It might have been. They might have been using black magic, Ken.
That's. They were worshiping Satan, and they got our address. That's how it worked. Damn it.
They didn't want any competition.
Or they were looking for recruits or something. Who knows? I don't know. We're going to get into all kinds of trouble for this. All right, so there's a Mystery Science Theater channel right now on Twitch. Streams. Oh, there's a Mystery Science Theater on Twitch that's 24 hours a day. There you go. Those things are fun. I've always enjoyed when I got them. I enjoyed those Mystery Science Theaters. Nothing is sacred, Davis. All right, so Darklight says the Chick Track comic. The Chick Track comic with D&D was great, and John Tron has a great reply to the movie. Jack Chick and got a movie about that comic, and it's faithful to the comic. I remember those things. Those little comics. The weirdest thing about that little comic thing, the Chick, whatever those D&D things. I remember we were somewhere in God knows where traveling, Kentucky or Tennessee. I don't know. I remember we were driving. Dad stopped to get some gasoline, and I went into the bathroom at the gas station. And this is before the 80s. There's not many huge truck stops like we got now, every 15 feet. I went in the bathroom, and laying on the back of the toilet was one of those little D&D, anti-D&D comic strips, or whatever. And I was sitting there going, really? How did you find me here? God, there's nothing sacred. What's going on? I don't know. It was weird.
I don't even know what group organized that.
It's the Chick. It's Jack Chick. It was a whole thing. I just remember we got it in the mail. We got these weird things in the mail saying we're going to hell and all this other stuff. It was just weird. And the funny thing is that our parents didn't even look at our mail. They just gave us our own mail. They paid no attention to it. The 80s book burnings were the most troubling thing I witnessed. I ironically saw a copy of Fahrenheit 451 go up in flames, along with a whole pile of other sci-fi. So, this is probably where Davis and I were protected somewhat from that. My dad was in the Army, so we grew up on military posts, and there were you can't burn books on a military post. You would have gotten all kinds of trouble for that. So we probably avoided the worst of that by being somewhat sheltered. Fantasy Grounds, that Satanic Panic stuff was bogus. It was an excuse to suppress misunderstood hobbies and to cover up the fact that material health was to blame. Mental health was to blame. Oh yeah, the whole thing was just, and I think it's way overblown. I really don't. I've played with a lot of D&D people over the years, and A few it impacted, but I haven't seen many that it had, it had too much to do. The minis were hilariously big, yeah.
I've only met one wizard who plays Dungeons and Dragons.
An actual wizard? We need to talk to him. We need to get more. We need to get more spell ideas from him.
And the devil. Anyway, nothing. Whatever.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. It was back in the 80s. I don't remember it. It certainly impacted some people.
They came after rock music, Dungeons
Oh,
and
yeah.
Dragons, fantasy,
All of it.
J.R. Tolkien.
All of it. Yep. Comic
They
books.
were all.
I remember they did Senate hearings on rock and roll. They did Senate hearings on the coming up video games. And I remember when Kiss came out, when Kiss started doing their craziness with the makeup and the boots and the whatever the hell they were doing, it was different enough. Hell, the whole disco movement, it made people kind of, the 70s made people kind of go crazy. It was just too hot. I don't know what was going on. So,
What was going on was the same generational shift that occurs every freaking decade in this country.
Yep, that's it. And it swings. The pendulum goes this way. The pendulum goes that way. The pendulum goes this way.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day. Do what?
Now we have a president. No, not a president. I thought we had a politician who played D&D now.
Oh, I'm sure we do. Somewhere in all this mess. But I was talking to a young Zoomer the other day, and she was telling me that the dress is beginning to look more like the 1980s, with longer skirts, longer sleeves. So it shifts. It just goes this way, it goes that way, it goes this way. It's why I figured out, I remember when I was in college, Todd and I would eat at this cafeteria called Wyatt's Cafeteria, and it was in the mall. And you could look out the window, and there were those little garden bench things. And there was always old men, because the walking thing had just started, where you can go to the mall and walk for your health. So this is like 86, 87. And I remember seeing all these old men just sitting there, not talking, not even sitting next to you, not even talking to each other. And I've come to realize, now that I'm in my 50s, that those old men are like, I can say something, but nobody's going to listen to me. They're going to do the same stupid shit that I did because I wouldn't listen to my dad. It's just the way it is. And it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. It's good that the young people get out there and try new stuff. Let's see, Blackleaf should have been in the NPC Almanac. We still got a little bit to put in that NPC Almanac. We got a few people's stuff in there. Let's see, so Darkest Dungeons, Sweeper AZ says Darkest Dungeons, yeah, Dead Gentleman and Zombie Orpheus Entertainment had a lot of fun with making that stuff. So those guys, they made some fantastic movies about 5 or 6 years ago. Go check out Dead Gentleman Society. It's just a great, hilarious movies in there. Let's see, Sparky, I was reading the other day that it's the Dead Gentleman, it's a production company. We did work with them way back, you probably remember, if you thought about it. Some of our product actually appear in some of their movies. It's just really good stuff. Actually, I got their movie poster hanging on the wall up there. Let's see, from Sparky, I was reading the other day that in 5e, devils are not necessarily all evil. Maybe they'll write a Devils and Demons supplement. Finally, D&D promotes devils. Yeah. The full circle has come around. Devils are the good guys. Yeah, well, I just want to warn anybody, if you're coming over from 5e, and whatever D&D does, that's great. That's their IP. That's fantastic. Go with it. Enjoy. But if you play CNC, devils and demons are evil, so be prepared. They're not the good guys. Let's see. Fantasy Grounds, mental health professionals, school PTAs, and uniformed media outlets were to blame more than fantasy RPGs. Oh yeah, there's a host of problems that you could you could point to long before RPGs or heavy metal or whatever come into the mix. Let's see, Bloodwild. I think I still have one of those pamphlet comics somewhere. I'm sure Davis kept ours somewhere. Darklight, he was out of touch because the D&D crowd were...
Oh, it was a Star Wars card.
You bastard. Good God, there's a lot of comments. I'm gonna have to skip down and skip some of these. I remember reading about the satanic charges long before I played. I knew it was BS then, but then when I actually started reading to the early materials, I was clear none of these people ever cracked. Oh yeah, that was the odd thing about that, is because you play a good guy killing evil. a lot of what was driven by churches like Assembly of God. Our scout troop met at one of their facilities, and they burned all sorts of sci-fi stuff in the parking lot. Yeah, I never experienced it. I knew it had happened some. The Satanic Panic didn't exist for me. I didn't even learn about it until sometime in the 2000s. I started playing in 19... You didn't even know it was happening. And the only issue back then was admitting you played D&D was basically social poison in school. Other than that, it was looked at as that nerdy stuff. Yeah, see, in the 70s, it wasn't social poison. In the 70s, it was just another game like Monopoly. But by 80, there's a whole much what we would call now gatekeeping. But there's so many retailers would keep people from joining the hobby openly that it became this, you had to be super skilled to do it, which meant that this certain group of people were doing it, and then you became ostracized for a little bit. It was totally bogus. I haven't sacrificed even been to Satan since 1998. Oh wait, there was that guy Bob last Thursday. Damn it, Vic. We're trying to gloss it all over here. That's great. But the panic was probably more real if you grew up in small places. Probably in very religious communities, where it's a very tight-knit religious community. But even here in Arkansas, in Monticello, I don't remember any of this stuff. Of course, I was in the Army, and we'd only visit home occasionally, once a year. But I don't remember any of it ever spilling back. So, and rural Arkansas is about as rural as you can get. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that it probably got more press than it deserved. Maybe not. I really haven't done the research. Our friend Geek Preacher's doing a great documentary on that, so we'll get a lot of information from him very, very soon. My mom's boyfriend in the 80s was an ex-Vietnam Marine and tried to bring up the satanic panic on me against my hobby as a passive-aggressive way to discredit my teen years. Yeah, there's probably some of this weird goofiness going on. Some places are wacky. They protested the release of Harry Potter in Batesville, Arkansas some years back, but by the final books, nobody cared anymore. That's how that is. And it's usually just a few people that are really loud. And most of the community is like, come on, guys, just quit. I live in a very rural area. My parents' friends were very religious and convinced them my devil books were bad and had to be burned along with my Black Sabbath Ozzy records. Now that just sucks, man. So Blood Wild lived through it. He actually had his stuff burned. So it definitely hit some of you guys out there. I grew up in LA, so totally different social dynamic. Yeah, I'm at the other end of the state. Let's see. I see you, Steven. I train new truck drivers, and I occasionally get one of those thinks they know it all. Rolls eye. Yeah. Yep. Where are some of the deities? What are some of the deities and gods and legends? So, let's swing. Ultra Magnus is going to swing us back to out of the satanic panic and to the gods and legends. And I want to throw out the Knoll deities are my favorite. So I'm going to hop over to that page. That's on page 45. So Davis created. I gave him this quick skinny on Knolls, my kind of interpretation of Knolls, and this fit Davis's style beautifully. I treat Knolls when I run them as exceedingly violent creatures. They thrive on violence. They have no fear of death. Their whole purpose in life is to cause pain and destruction and to kill. I like the Knolls in the world of Earth being really, really bad. So he ran with that concept. And
I thought you were talking about gnomes.
We are revisiting the gnomes. But so he made the Knoll deity Akkad, who is the god of killing, destruction, regicide, and sacrifice. And then there's Alvag, the mighty bow, the Knoll warfare, pillage, slaughter, class structure. There's Azus, fear, hate, and vengeance, and Itzhak, the god of death, war, chaos, and killing. And then the Guthrax, metallurgy, iron, weapons, war, and heat. And all of these gods are just filled with just that kind of spirit of the Knoll, which is violence and bringing it to your table. And when you read this stuff, it's why we went with the name Gods and Legends. Originally, we were going to kind of redo Gods and Monsters, but we got other plans for the monsters. And when Davis and I were sitting, we had a long conversation about it. And settled on Legends because what Davis did when he wrote these deities is he wove legends, just very brief, kind of a touch on what these gods do, think, and how, and they interact with their own people. So you'll get just a touch of a legend, enough to give you, a good starting point for an adventure or something, and dive into it. So without a doubt, my favorite in here are the Knoll deities. But there's tons of them. There's Bugbear, Bugbear, Goblin, just all kinds of stuff, just Orc, all kinds of stuff in here. And Kobold, the Kobold deities are fucking awesome as well. Real quick, we are doing a raffle, so if you have not entered the raffle, I don't think we've done it yet. So enter in the word !raffle to get yourself entered in, and we will be giving away free Gods and Legends and print and PDF here very, very soon. Let's see. I had my dad buy my first modules from the neighbor boy who was older. I still remember poring over them, but not having the player DM's handbooks hooked for life. Absolutely, C. Smith. It's just cool stuff, and it fires the imagination. King Kothar, I agree. Knowles are freaking awesome. How's it going, Sorrow's Tale?
Yeah, I like those. I like my kobolds too.
Your kobolds are badass, and
I'm going to check up what I did with the. I've forgotten about the gnomes because I did rewrite those like 5 times.
yeah. So the gnomes are something we've revisited at Troller Games. So we're going to give you a quick skinny. Let's see. Gods and Legends does not represent current organized religion, current political views, or any social movements. It does not, Fantasy Grounds. There is none of that. We are very careful. You know, I don't like to get myself involved, watch, play, entertainment of any type that's going to lecture me about anything. I don't give a shit what side of what fence you're on or in the middle. I don't care when I'm watching a TV show or a movie or reading a comic book. I'm a news hound. I read the news every day, 4 or 5 times a day. I keep myself informed, and that's what the news is for. But when I'm gaming or whatever, I just want to game. So we try to keep all of that stuff out. We don't want any of that stuff in there. And it's not the place for it. In TOG's opinion, if you're a publisher and you want to do that, God bless, carry on. That's just that's not quite our shtick. Let's see. So on the alignments, we do, we list the alignments, but reluctantly so because Davis doesn't use alignments at all when he's running games. And I do alignments. You're not a big fan of alignments. I kind of break it into evil and good, and it's really loose. But we do put the alignments in there as a guide for those people who really get into that, Kim. So, and I saw your message earlier. If you've ordered your Gods and Legends, we'll get it out tomorrow. So the alignments are touched on, but not pressed. The book does sound handy regardless of the setting you're using. Sounds like it'd give good guidance for dealing with divine powers regardless of the setting. That was really the intent, Sparky, with all of these things, all of these books we do. We really just want to hit wide on the mark so that whether you're playing Aird or Enzea or Greyhawk, Forgotten Realms, or I can't think of any other settings. What other settings? The Lost Lands, I think, is built over at Frog God. You can take his book and roll. And kobolds and gnomes belong together right in the trash. Trolls, gnomes, goblins, and orcs are going to hand their top shot. We got another gnome hater here. Hobgoblins is grim. I love hobgoblins. King Kothar, I absolutely love hobs. Shouldn't hobgoblins be good aligned? So there are not trolls in the book, though he did make troll deities. I tossed them out because we're in this really weird zone with trolls for obvious reasons. But, I gotta check Skype.
Well, you tossed my trolls out?
Yes, I think I did. I'm pretty sure I did. I can't remember. There's 2, I think, troll deities. No, they're in there. No, they made it. I thought I tossed them. So there are 2. There's 1 troll deity, Barg the Destroyer. Trolls play a very intricate role in Aird, so we got to kind of revisit that a little bit. Let me see. Tim is Skyping me, and I'll mess up over here. Okay. Yeah. All right. So someone asked about gnomes. See, win or not, I'll be getting this book. Need it for my home campaign. Really spices things up. Well, thank you for that, C. Smith. Hopefully you win the raffle and can take it home good. I might be lying. I read that somewhere. Wait. Apparently, hob equals good. Hobgoblin, good goblin. I have never read that. That's very interesting. I don't know about that. Okay, so let me give a quick skinny on the gnomes. So Davis hates gnomes with an unbridled passion. Neither of us have ever been really certain why they were put into the Dungeons and Dragons, game and carried over into Castles and Crusades. And I'm not fond of gnomes. I don't.
Good for mortar.
Yeah, well, I can't. The thing is, me, I got to be able to picture it when I'm running games. I kind of got to picture it, kind of realistically. And gnomes were forever ruined with the red hat thing, and that even comes before the Garden Gnome, because is it Brian Froud, who did all those really cool fairy books, beautiful art. He did one on goblins, he did one on gnomes, and that kind of institutionalized gnomes as these tiny little pudgy, funny guys, and from that point forward, I could never envision it. So when you wrote the original gods for the gnomes, that's what you had in mind. And you made them pretty cool, but then they were based around beer and pot bellies and happiness and flowers and all of that stuff. And they were like garden, they were like living garden gnomes. It's what they really were.
The only thing I've ever created in my whole life that actually has like positivist nihilism.
And you know what's sad about that is because I asked you to change it. So we re-envisioned the gnome, and Dave's had long conversations about this, to make it something a little bit more dangerous, a little bit more deadly, a little bit more practical, and we kind of settled on this smaller creatures that are elf-like. They're more fey-like than they are dwarf-like, so they drop that bearded, pudgy side of things, and they adopt a more deadly, dangerous fairy type of thing, fey type of thing. And that's where we landed. And then Zoe did some absolutely astounding art. You'll see it in the New Player's Handbook, which should be out in the next few weeks. And you'll see it in the Gods and Legends. If I can figure out, let me see if I can't get. Yeah, I'll see if I can't get the image of one of the gnome gods here. I'm just going to drop it on top of Davis and I so everybody can see it. And you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And a little bit of it is inspired by. And Davis, you should remember this, you collected them, the ElfQuest comic books from long, long ago.
Either you have them or I have them.
I'm not sure which one of us has them. One of us has them. So, all right, Davis.
I have them. I really love those books.
Those are fantastic.
They're still in print.
Yeah, those are fantastic stories. All right, did that actually get it? Okay, so I blocked your face out, Davis. But there's the gnome. That's one of the gnome deities right there. And we're recasting the gnome, trying to get... Yeah, actually, Dahardian asks, weren't the red caps evil gnomes? Yes. And that red cap would be a far more, without the red conical hat, but the approach that we're taking. Just a little bit more primeval and dangerous. That's the perfect description for it. We just want them to be not cute, mischievous, but dangerous, and primeval is the perfect example. Let me get Davis back on. Evil Smurf, there you go. With the idea that we're really trying to make the gnome more palatable to every gamer out there, as opposed to... What the hell are you doing? Are you chewing paper?
Yeah.
What are you doing up there?
Doing my thing.
So just for those of you know, Davis wakes up at about 2 in the morning, and he works till about 7. Well, works about 5 and does whatever Davis does. But he goes to sleep at 7, so he's about 2 hours past his bedtime at the moment. So I'm guessing that you floss your teeth with a piece of paper.
I really didn't think I was going to be awake.
That'll learn you. Busted in 4K, there you go. Cotton 4K, there you go. The Lord of Ball Peen Hammers. Yeah, there you go. Yes, ElfQuest is absolutely... It was just badass. So, and that kind of what inspired this kind of concept, and that's where we shifted. And Davis kind of rewrote the Gnome Gods to fit that a little bit better. And then that was also put into the New Player's Handbook you'll see with the 8th printing, which I said should be out in 3, 4, 5 weeks.
What was that comic? Weird World.
Oh my God, Weird World was the best. Man, I used to have that in my desk drawer. So that was an old Marvel release, three editions. It was a comic book, but it was a magazine comic, like the old epics. Brilliant stuff. The City of Seven Dark Delights. Some of the best art, best storytelling. Absolutely. Every time Davis is on, we talk about Weird World. Yeah. It was just really imaginative and out of the box and very cool. And that's actually the perfect example of of the gnomes, that and ElfQuest. What?
I didn't have noticed that. You really talk about Weird World.
But dude, it is literally when you said that, I can immediately conjure a dozen images in my head from that comic strip, comics, the 3 of them, because it's just Yeah,
For me, more than any other, more so than Tolkien, more so than any other author that I can call off the top of my mind, helped inform my particular understanding of a fantasy world with little midgety guys and magic and stuff like that.
Well, the cool thing about that era of the 70s and the 80s is, by the late 80s, Tolkien, the trilogy is dominating everything. But before that, you actually had this really out-of-the-box, weird fantasy worlds and fantasy, Ursula K. Le Guin's, those island worlds. You had the Pern, the concept behind Pern is, I think, one of the most, I think it's Anne McCaffrey, is that right? One of the most, not realistic, but imaginative approaches to a fantasy world, because the danger isn't some Dark Lord or whatever, it's threads falling, it's acidic threads or whatever the hell they were falling from the heavens. And the whole thing is you have to fight them. How fucking different is that? That is so different than, everything else that's churned out these days, because it kind of follows a mold now, right? There's whatever.
The Dark Lord of Evil.
We got it. That was Sam. Sam's like, yeah, we got it. So whatever. But, yeah, I mean, it's...
I think The Witcher was a little different. I don't know.
Now, actually, that show that just came out last year.
The Witcher?
Yeah, there was some TV show that came out that was really good. Earthsea.
I think it was The Witcher. I only saw the first episode.
Oh, it's good. I watched the whole season. It's very good. Talking to simultaneously the best and worst thing to happen in fantasy ever. That's a good way to put it, King Kothar, because I'm a gigantic Tolkien fan. I absolutely love J.R.R. Tolkien's material. Silmarillion I've read half a dozen times. But it did, by the time late 80s is coming around, and I remember this very distinctly, early 90s, everything's trilogies. Everything's kind of got this mold that it's following. And it was really disappointing. I've got shelf full of paperbacks that I bought in the early 80s that are just weird and odd fantasy books and weird and odd science fiction books that are just different. And Weird World is one of those things that is different. And it really, all of that stuff is what kind of fires the imagination. If you're all kind of following the same approach, then it's all kind of the same. And that's one of the things I think that Deities fall into in these RPGs, is people kind of treat them as this, I don't know, a medal hanging on the wall, a trophy, whatever, a trope, whatever you want to call it, and they don't utilize them as the tool in the RPG that gods can actually be. And this is what Gods and Legends aspires to tackle, is to bring that in. Earthsea, that was the world that Ursula K. Le Guin created for.
I never read Earthsea.
I did. It's really cool. It's light reading, but it's good, and it's different. And anything that's, for my mind, especially these days, anything that's different is good. And funny you say you've read the Silmarillion half a dozen times. I've read the Silmarillion half a time. King Kothar's never finished the Silmarillion.
Really?
That's still one of my favorite books. I asked myself the other day my favorite book of all genres. History, fiction, whatever. And I settled on, I couldn't decide, it's either True Grit or the Silmarillion. I've gotten more pleasure out of those two books than any other book I've ever read.
I think The Hobbit would be my favorite.
Hobbit's up there. Yeah. I remember crying when I read The Hobbit. I was at Granny's under that air conditioner on the couch.
Yeah.
I read your illustrated. You gave it to me. It was an illustrated Hobbit. We still have it, though the binding's falling apart. And I read it. And I remember when Thorn.
I just found it out in the box.
Did you really? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's the first. Yeah. That's the time I read The Hobbit the first time. And when Thorin Oakenshield died, I remember tearing up. It's a hard scene, man, for a 10-year-old kid. Thorin was awesome.
Was that the summer I almost killed you?
Probably. Oh, with the pillow over my head.
Yeah, put a cushion over your head.
I think that was at Fort Campbell. I'm not sure. I'm not sure when that was. You and Zane tortured me a lot at Fort Campbell. I remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that didn't turn out different.
Yeah. Hobbit is easily the most accessible of Tolkien's writings. It's just a fun, whimsical read. All his other books require way more attention. Yeah, The Hobbit definitely is an easier read than the rest. I did too, Stephen. Cried the first time I read The Hobbit. No shame in it. Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a fantastic story. Well, damn it! I gave the spoiler away about Thorin. I ruined it for Big Danger. Can you give spoilers away for a book that's 100 years old? Is that even possible?
Yeah, I'm going. Spoiler alert! We're going to talk about Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. That's great. And we have been informed. Yes, you can.
In a way, though, I was going to say it's sad, but it's just the way that it is. I could actually spoil Romeo and Juliet for a lot of people because they've never read it.
Oh, that's true.
And then it becomes like some pre-teens.
Well, there's been
age of 13 because their parents won't let them get married.
What is that?
In a 6-day period. It's crazy when you think about it.
I just watched a movie called Die in a Gunfight, and I absolutely recommend this movie to everybody. Davis, you would love it. It is basically Romeo and Juliet kind of redone with a new shell, but it has one of the most unique character meetings I have ever seen, ever. And I'm not going to give too much away, but these two characters meet at one point because of this. I won't go into that. And then later in the show, they have nothing to do with each other, but they meet again, and there's this whole ruckus going on. They go, I can't remember their names, but it's like, Harry? Ted? It was so fucking awesome. It was really Die in a Gunfight. Watch the movie. It is fantastic. It's Romeo and Juliet redone. It's a great movie.
Die in a Gunfight?
Die in a Gunfight. That's the name of the movie. It just came out. I rented it on Apple. It's probably on Amazon. I think you got Prime, don't you? I'll bet you it's on Prime. It is a really good movie. But it's essentially Romeo and Juliet, done again. Hey guys, spoilers. Conan wins in the end. No! Yeah. Romeo and Juliet dead, die. Yeah, Romeo and Juliet's a hard. Most Shakespeare's kind of hard. Hamlet, spoiler, everybody dies. Stephen's strategy. Let's see if you can remember what movie this comes from. He dies, she dies, everybody dies. That's one of my favorite lines. You know what movie it is, Davis? It's one of my favorite lines from any movie ever. And it's the Emperor who speaks it. Star Wars spoilers, Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's dad. No! Do you know what movie I was talking about, Davis?
No.
Does anyone out there know what movie I'm talking about? He dies, she dies, everybody dies. It's an old one. Do what?
No.
He's sitting on the throne. One leg is thrown up over an arm. He's a young guy. And he's all relaxed, dressed in a Roman toga. And he's like, he dies, she dies, everybody dies. It is a fantastic scene. The movie, we'll give it another 30 seconds to see if someone's typing it now. But the movie is, DeHardian's got it. It is Heavy Metal is the movie. That's the Den cartoon.
I was offline through Amazon the other night, and there's a Heavy Metal too.
Yes, I never saw it. I know that there was one. Heavy Metal is one of those magazines, you bought it, and I read your Heavy Metals, and they were really cool. It's just like we were talking about earlier. Everything was so imaginative and different, and of course it was a little pornographic, it was made for young men or whatever the hell. But then it kind of goes under, it gets purchased by one of its fans, and then he turns it into a really kind of an adult mag. This purpose was to be more adult-oriented.
At a certain point,
Yeah,
it went all...
it went too far.
Not even Hugh Hefner went Hustler.
It was very close in that direction. I don't mind death in movies or games if it's not dumb or unexplained to be. Oh yeah, no. Death plays a purpose, but it should really play a purpose. It shouldn't just be the Lochnar. Yes, Lord Gazumba knows. The death of a character should absolutely have a purpose. And this is yet another reason to bring gods into your game, because gods can actually give character death meaning at the table. I mean, that's really the tools that come with playing gods and using gods at the table are they're just uncountable, absolutely uncountable. So we more happy endings to stories. Blood Wild. We need more happy endings to stories. I'm looking forward to watching Titanic later. The unsinkable ship. You will enjoy it, Blood Wild. There you go. Heavy metal is like watching someone else's fever dream. It's the 70s fever dream. Heavy metal is great. Heavy Metal 2, not very great. Yeah, I've never seen it. I'm going to have to watch it one of these days. If you refuse, you die. She dies. Everybody dies. I love that scene. I say G.I. Joe V and A-Team drove me nuts. Bikini chainmail is hilarious. Yeah. Oh yeah, Lord J is into it. He knows. I am Den, John Candy. Oh, I did not know John Candy did Den. Oh, that's hilarious. I love John Candy. It was very sad when he died. Lord Gazuma, Hanover Fist, probably, that might be the best skit.
Oh, yeah, Hanover Fist.
Yeah. That might be the best thing in heavy metal. The Hanover Fist start, yeah, is just absolutely great. Don't mess with cabbies. Heavy metal is it's actually a very good movie. It is kind of like a fever dream, but it's a very good movie. Pulp Fiction is a fantastic movie. So Matt Barnager, Davis and I when we were young, we shared a room together. He got me into D&D and comics and all that bullshit. But we've had some strange encounters over the years. I remember, I rarely would go to a movie when it opened. I always waited for 3 or 4 weeks, and then would go when the theater was empty. And I remember when I went to go to see Pulp Fiction, I went in there and sat down, and there's just one person in there who was awesome. Ate my popcorn, watched the whole movie, and as I was standing up, Davis stood up. He was the one person like 8 rows in front of me. It was so funny. I was like, what the hell? See, there was a recall on cocaine in 1980. Do you remember that? Because that was in Fayetteville. That was so funny. Let's see. So you said earlier that you felt Gandalf and other wizards were gods. Yes, they were powerful, but not omnipotent. So that one's to you, Davis, about Gandalf and his omnipotence.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's not. And most of the gods aren't omnipotent. They're just they're powerful. The only creator gods are omnipotent if you have them, and even those have their limitations. But we're not talking about like gods who can summon. Though I just said gods that can summon existence into existence. So I did find out just recently. I was looking up some god stuff from the Marvel MCU, and Odin transported the entire human race to an alternate dimension to protect it from some danger.
That's pretty godlike.
Apparently, yeah, Odin could do a lot. He could destroy galaxies and other types of things. So, I don't know, maybe they are omnipotent.
Well, you know, what I did in the world of Erd when I kind of addressed that issue. So, there's the Allfather who creates the world, and I really don't touch on the Allfather at all. He's really just a being that unmakes himself during the act of creation, right? So that he becomes something else. But he's created the Valar Kun, which are the greater gods, and of the Valar Kun, there's the 11 named, and of the 11 named, there's 3 that actually interacted with the Allfather. That's Korthane, Orndul, and Mordias. And each, if you read the Codex of Erd, and this is kind of how I wrote it, each of those gods thinks they understand, and they think they're omnipotent, and they understand the Allfather's plan, purpose, and all of those things. Whether they do or not is actually, now I know fiction-wise, and I'm, when I do stuff, I know what's going on, but whether they do or not is entirely up to whoever's running the game. But in the reality of the world of Erd, they don't have they think they're omnipotent, but they are not. So that kind of gives the CK or the designer both sides of that coin if you want to play that, that side of it. And some of the other gods are less so, but each of those interacted with the Allfather in such a way that they feel they're better than the rest, though they aren't perhaps better than the rest, smarter, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I have some that are pretty strong in Zaya, but they're also very limited. Like the one who carries the sun on his back, He carries the sun around the world on his back.
That's pretty powerful.
Can't let go of that. So that's his job. So you have to be pretty powerful to carry the sun on your back.
Yeah, that would put you close to it. And see, I know. So Blood Wild has entered Ghostbusters. I do know when someone asks if you are a god, you say yes. Do you remember that scene from Ghostbusters? That's a great movie. Back in the day when I had absolutely zero money, that's the only movie I saw twice. I didn't see Star Wars twice at the movie theater, but I saw Ghostbusters twice at the movie theater. Saw Star Wars once, Ghostbusters twice.
You know, I'm trying to think of gods that have been represented well in movies.
No, there's not many.
And no, there really isn't.
Vikings, if you've watched the TV show Vikings, the Norse gods are represented pretty cool in that, but they're pretty in the background. I mean, they're not in it much.
Yeah, they're in the background. Although they're the driving force behind a lot of stuff. The belief in what they want or desire or expect. There was a movie though. What's the movie about that guy? It's one of those crazy movies. Villeneuve, I think, directed it. One.
Oh yeah.
And that's one of the most boring scenes in all of cinematic history. For 30 minutes, it's just them on a bus.
That movie is beautifully shot, but hard to watch.
Yes, no, it was beautifully shot, but I think the gods are represented well in that.
Yeah. No, they are, and the movie it had its moments of boredom, but it's a decent movie. But if you want to watch it,
yeah, I really
brace yourself.
What's another movie? The movie set in Bangkok. Anyway, it's about a god of justice, and then there's it's so underscored, like this god of justice carries out just one act of justice. That's all he's after, and he never does anything until the very end when he carries out that act of justice, and it's like in less than 30 seconds.
Does it have like
the whole movie builds up to him doing it?
Is that like a modern movie?
Yeah. It's set in the modern world.
And it has like an elephant killed? Is an elephant killed in it? I'm thinking of the Ong Bak movie.
Oh, no. You're thinking about that karate play.
Yeah, like Ong Bak or something, and that's kind of got some religious overtones in it. Let's see, the god of trolls doesn't have to be a troll. Look at Steven. He probably was experimenting with magic and regeneration, but he let some of his experience loose in the world. Yeah, there you go. As I slowly grind away. I went to Ghostbusters by myself in college, and I fell asleep and woke up when the credits were rolling. Apparently, Kim George was not a fan of Ghostbusters. That's funny. All right, so we're gonna announce the raffle winners here in just a second. Ego in Guardians of the Galaxy is playing Star-Lord's father's a hilarious portrayal of a god. That's a good movie. That's just a very good movie. All right, so we are going to get your entry in. We're going to do, what are we raffling? What are we doing? We're doing a signed copy of Gods and Legends and then some digital copies as well. So Chuck will be announcing those winners any minute now. He's running, he's doing whatever Chuck does to make these things happen. I don't know what it is. I don't know how this stuff works.
That's true. Star-Lord's father is actually a good representation of a god.
Star-Lord was just a good movie. That was just a very good movie. But I guess he was primordial, celestial, same sort of thing. There you go. It's hard to find gods represented. It's really, even at whether it's RPGs, movies, TV shows, it's a difficult thing to tackle, to run at your table. It's a difficult thing to kind of to weave into your character. But if you can manage it, it's something that will make everything that much cooler. It'll just give more depth and context to stuff. And hopefully Gods and Legends will kind of send you in that route, send you in that direction. I was just too tired and couldn't stay awake. I saw it many years later and enjoyed it. You don't have to like the movie, Kim. I didn't care for Ghostbusters 2. It was okay. It was a fun movie. But Ghostbusters 1 for me was just, I don't know, it had the perfect mix of sarcasm and goofiness and whatever. Grape Ape has been removed as a winner due to inactivity. Why did Grape Ape get thrown out? What the hell? Okay, I guess people are winning. I don't know what the hell's going on. Congrats, Mastrick, you have won a digital and print copy of the book. And congrats, Steven Strategy, you have won a digital and print copy of the book. Congrats, Grape Ape, you have won a digital, but wait, he was kicked out. Congrats, Bondrine, you have won. Excellent.
He'll be back next week.
Yeah, he'll be back tomorrow to hound me with his floating disc spell. All right, so we got a lot of, and to Hardy, and got a lot of winners. Absolutely, congratulations, everybody. For those of you who don't, you can definitely check out the book on our website. Give the ad copy a read. Check out, you can see some of the art we got up there.
My comp copy.
Do what? We don't.
The comp copy.
We don't send out comp copies. I'll bring you one next time I go up. If I lose, I'll give myself a Dr. Pepper. There you go. You get a car, and you get a car. Everyone gets a car. Yeah, there you go. Is there a god of floating discs? There should be. Well, you know, that's the next project. One of the projects Dave is working on next is a huge expansion to Guilds and Orders. It's something we've had floating around here forever and a day. We just released a small version of it, but there's so much more we want to do with that. And we've resurrected a product from long, long ago called Halls of Wood and Halls of Stone. That too is being... hold on, I'm trying. It's okay. Good deal. It's all good. It's all good. All right, I think we're about done. I want to thank everybody for wandering out and joining us tonight. Great favors. This is some BS. That's fantastic. That's what happens. Great Ape, your floating disc took you too far away. It's just the way it is. Sometimes it goes against you. That's hilarious. Now, Streamlabs apparently Chuck booted Great Ape and get out, Great. That's great. If there was a god of floating discs, the Flumps would be devout followers. Oh my god. That's a monster in D&D, the Flump. I think we may have it in CNC too, I'm not sure. There you go. All right, congratulations everybody for winning. I think we're going to wind down. We're almost 3 hours past Davis's bedtime, so he's got to. We're rating Troll's Tusk. So everybody, I will be rating. Everybody, thanks for joining us. It was a great stream, and we'll see you tomorrow for Ask Me Anything. We are rating Troll Tusk now. Take care, everybody.